As you might imagine, it's the nonprofit community that has been tasked with trying day in, day out to bridge the gap with a shrinking social safety net. So I wanted to know exactly what that looks like to help fill in that info gap. Christine Quinn, CEO of WIN, Women in Need, and Kanchana Sugu, Chief Impact Officer at United Way, New York City. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here. You know, we heard from a very, poignant woman talking about a very specific situation, but I wanted to bring both of you in to talk big picture about how the nonprofit community is really trying to step up in light of so many people seeing their monthly benefits dwindle. I would imagine the pressure on both of your organizations has increased tremendously over the last several months.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking potentially close to 50,000 New Yorkers, New York City residents who could be impacted. There's over 3 million people across the state who are on food stamps, who are on SNAP. And really, although the state did some decent things in the budget, this really is falling to local community-based groups. I'll give you an example. In the fall, with that government shutdown, when the federal government, the president decided, he didn't have to, decided to freeze SNAP benefits, we at WIN raised $600,000 in a week to make sure we had food resources for our clients. But you can't do that every week, right? You can't do that forever. And what's happening also is we have food pantries in all 15 of our family shelters. But we're not getting more money from the city to buy more food. That's money we're going to have to raise privately or can drives or whatever. But while WIN is doing it, the United Way is doing it, and the group in the Bronx is doing it, and the group in Brooklyn is doing it. So at some point, there really may not be enough resources, even though people have really stepped up and been very generous. And this is a decision made by the same federal government that just decided they were going to spend $1.8 billion on a slush fund to give money to people who attacked the Capitol and attacked police officers. It is cruelty and absurdity at its height.
Well, Ms. Quinn, we are going to step away from the politics. I've known you for a long time. I've known you for a long time. And as legitimate as that conversation may be, I want to focus on the fundraising because you touched on that. And Ms. Sugu, as Chief Impact Officer of the United Way of NYC, I have to imagine that you're calling more people.
Absolutely.
You're asking them. At some point, where does the chain of giving get really tough since you're asking such a bigger pool of people to give?
Yeah, I mean, we have been doing this since the first time that we heard and learned about the new work requirements. For many, many months, United Way of New York City and our nonprofits have been preparing for the work requirements. We work with over 600 community-based organizations in all 5 boroughs in New York City. We work with over 400 emergency food providers. This went into effect on March 1, and today, June 1, is the first day when it's likely that many New Yorkers will start losing their benefits. Our estimates, what we understand is that there are about 123,000 New Yorkers who are at the risk of losing benefits. And the reality is that many of them are not even aware. And it's really on the CBOs who are trying their best to educate New Yorkers, to let them know this is coming. We commend HRA for doing all of the outreach efforts that they've been doing, making the calls, sending the letters, sending emails. But the reality is we're talking about people who may not even have an address. We're talking about, new eligibility criteria now. People who didn't have to demonstrate and prove that they're working now have to do that.
They may not even have internet access.
They may not even have internet access.
Right, and if you can't deduct that, as we just saw with the woman you interviewed, how are you going to get the information? How are you going to look for a job if you don't have internet access? And what the United Way has been doing has been really great, working with groups like WIN, and there's really been a lot of preparation. And I just want to reinforce, New Yorkers have been generous. We've seen that. There's really an ecosystem out there that's pushing to make sure nobody falls through the cracks. But the truth is we're going to have to keep that going because people are going to lose their benefits. And for some people, and if you're talking about people in homeless shelters, for example, the folks that I work with, they have a lot else going on, right? They're trying to stabilize. Maybe they're trying to deal with mental health issues or substance abuse issues. And there's a lot of government meetings they have to attend. So to have this come at them right when they're trying to get the lives and their children's lives back on track really can be something that gets people off track and is a big blow emotionally, even beyond the financial impact. And there's just no reason for it.
Absolutely. I mean, SNAP is a lifeline for New Yorkers. A third of NYC households rely on SNAP. This is coming at a time of an affordability crisis, and these are people who have multiple jobs. So, just wanted to say that these are people who have jobs and who now have to prove that they're working.
And it's at a time when food prices, we know, are up. So it was harder even before you lost your benefits or had your benefits get cut back.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap it there, Ms. Sugu of the United Way, Ms. Quinn of WIN. We appreciate your time.
We
Thank
appreciate
you so much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.